Spoiler warning ahead, watch at your own risk. Love Through a Prism is an original romance anime series produced by Wit Studio in 2026. The story follows a young 20-year-old Japanese woman named Riri as she travels to London to study painting. What makes this story unique is 100% its setting. Rather than being another villainous reincarnated into the dating sim or my engagement has been disavowed and some other rando prince comes to save me story, it's set in a more realistic fiction of the early 1900s. The exact year that this story is set in is unclear though, and they purposely don't tell you the year when it takes place at the start of the series, and there's a reason for that. And if you know anything about world history, you can take one guess as to what that may be. The show definitely showcases the skills of the Wit Studio, which is the same studio that did the first 3 seasons of Attack on Titan and the upcoming One Piece remake, as the colors and the backgrounds are all really nice. You can tell the animation team did some research trips to London and used a lot of real classic artworks as references. The backgrounds are made to look like paintings that were made by the European masters, and all throughout they'll kind of mix in actual paintings in the background as, paintings hanging on the wall as part of the set and things like that. And it looks like, a Manet or a Monet, and the images are all a lot softer. The characters are all really well animated, and when they mix in what looks like real footage or photographs, like things like the ocean, the compositing looks really good and works well. Little details like how Kit, the main love interest, has blue eyes with some contrasting magenta in the iris is really nice. All the characters of the series are also fine. There isn't anyone that's super annoying or stupid, which is always more enjoyable for any series, and the main character has a good spirit and is actually likable. The series also uses a lot of visual symbolism and motifs, such as vibrant flowers with life blooming versus dying and wilting flowers. And then at the end of the series, it does some nice tonal shifts to black and white, where the character loses her ability to kind of see the joy in life, therefore all the color's gone. Overall, the series is pretty good, but its weakest point is how cliche the story turns out to be. It's the usual women's romance of multiple guys into the same girl and no one admits their feelings kind of thing. And then there's the typical scenes where the main heroine collapses and has to be saved, or when someone gets a fever and all that jazz. It also does the cliche of the guy is the sort of prince in disguise. He's not actually a prince, he's just a high-ranking noble duke. But it does that usual, trope of like, oh, it's just some bum, but nope, surprise, he's like the prince kind of thing. The greatest shortcoming, though, is the missed opportunity to focus on the actual plot, which is art. The show does very little to teach the viewers about art history, famous artists, styles, techniques, or anything. There are only a couple small info drops here or there, but its focus is always the relationship stuff. I would have loved to have seen the heroine use more Japanese art and techniques and teach others about that kind of style, but the most we kind of get is her using a special type of Japanese pen, and then she sort of draws like a frame-by-frame animation later, which isn't even really something that's unique to Japan. The story mostly focuses on the art competition to be #1 ranked artist, and how everybody kind of feels inadequate and unsatisfied with their own works, and it's a lot less about the actual production of art and how art is produced. It's more of that emotional state. Another, and probably the greatest weakness of this series, has to be that it's actually kind of boring. Honestly, I put the last 4 or 5 episodes in 1.5 speed just so that I could finish it a little bit faster. The black and white section towards the end gets kind of long and drawn out, but I did like how they used the light of the fireworks to illuminate part of the hair and the eyes of the main romantic interest, Kit. That was visually really cool. However, the story sort of lacks once World War I breaks out and everybody gets separated. The show does like a 5-year time skip to not have to show any of the actual war content, and that's when Riri thinks that Kit is dead. But of course, he's not. So then we got to do the dance around the conclusion once Kit shows up, and guess what? He's not dead. It even takes over a year just for her to chase after him back to London. And once she does get to London, she opens up a kimono shop there. And, you know, I don't know how many people are going to buy a kimono in London in 1920, but I don't think it's that many. But then it still takes another year or 6 months or maybe 2 for Kit to show up again, and finally he comes back to her and they hook up. So it takes like years from the point to the reveal, like, oh, he's not dead, to her and him actually finally hooking up. And they really drag that out. So then once you get to the post credits, you know, you get the nice little happy ending scene where they're both making art and it looks really pretty and all that jazz. But if you know anything about world history, the Great Depression is coming up in a couple more years, so happy ending, I guess. Yay! So I'm gonna give this show a 2 out of 3 stars. A full 2 because the artwork is nice, and instead of a 1.5, which is probably what I would have given it, but they get that extra credit for the artwork. And it's fine, but not anything revolutionary. It's a good show to sit and chill for a slow-paced romance story, but I personally will not be watching it again. But I do really appreciate the effort that they went into to the backgrounds and the areas, and you could tell like they used actual references of a lot of architecture and other famous things. So that's part of the experience, which I think gives them that 2, that extra half star in my opinion. So that's my opinions on the show. Whether you check it out or not, it's up to you, but thanks for watching. Did anyone else also notice how much they like to show feet and shoes in this show? I mean, either they just didn't really want to animate a lot of walking, or they just really like showing her shoes. I don't know, it was something that I kind of thought was interesting.